painting to photography, from beadwork to woodworking. KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University presents Art Beat. Art Beat highlights the work and accomplishments of local artists from in and around Winona. Support for Art Beat is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
If you were to look around the Blue Heron Cafe here in Winona recently, you might notice some interesting pieces of artwork. Several oil paintings depicting different natural landscapes. From far away, you could mistake them for photographs, but up close you see the texture and the wonderful beauty of nature. Well, that was done by local artist Colleen Shore, who we are lucky enough to have in the studio with us. So today on Art Beat, stay tuned for this special episode where we get to hear from the artists behind the oil paintings along the Mississippi. All right, so I'm not joined here in the studio. We actually have her over phone here. Colleen, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you for joining us here on Art Beat, and I appreciate you making the time. So I did do a quick rundown about what your pieces are, although I doubt I've given them justice. Can you elaborate on what your artwork is over at the Blue Heron Cafe?
Yes, thank you. I am an oil painter, and I have been sort of documenting, I would say, a journey through the area from everything from bluffs, towns, wetlands, rivers, and prairies, anything along the upper Mississippi River. So I've just been embracing what's around me to paint and share with my viewers.
All right. Are there any special ones that you think were really that really stood out? Anything that would really get people's attention?
Well, I think one of the ones that I featured on some of my posters and media is one of Sugarloaf. And it was something that I was inspired by right after a workshop at the Marine Art Museum. And they had a special plein air event that I participated in with the workshop as an attendee. And when I came out of the doors one day, I just saw Sugarloaf from this little view from walking out the door. I had to take a photo, and I went home immediately. And within the next couple of days, I had a painting. And it's just a lovely atmospheric painting showing the real cast of blues in the bluff and some of the foliage and lines that were crossing in front of me.
So why did you choose to do oil painting as a medium? And why not any other form of art?
Well, I have in the past. I was using more acrylic. I've tried watercolor, and I gravitated to oils. I had been exposed to Between the Bluffs plein air artists, and they were demoing, and they suggested using oils. And there was a richness to it, a real buttery texture. The colors, I think, were a little richer. And plus, it lent itself much better to plein air, where outside you're not as affected by the rain since it's oil paint. If it's really cold, it's not like your paint is freezing. So it was just a medium of choice for most plein air painters, so I thought I would give that a try and invested into a pochade box, plein air paint, new brushes, and went on my way to search out workshops and events that I could participate in.
Okay, you're saying is it plein air paint? Is that what?
Yes, I suppose it's pronounced a couple different ways. Plein air. It's a French term meaning to, I guess, in essence, paint outside in the moment. So you are outside seeing the colors and the shadows that are happening in front of you rather than, let's say, a photo,
right,
which the camera doesn't quite have enough information as much as that you can see visually when you're outside looking at landscapes. You'll see the little nuances of color, changes in the light.
Well, how long have you been doing plein air painting?
Well, I just really began, I say, about 5 years into it. I don't do it every day. I'm sort of a fair weather plein air painter.
Right.
I have been caught in the rain and buggy days and stuff like that, but I do like to get out and do that. Participated in Between the Bluffs for the last couple years, and I also am part of the Artists in the Refuge that will be coming up in June to paint on site and have visitors come along and enjoy and see the process.
All right, you mentioned how you try to stay in good weather, but there are times where you don't. What is that like? What's it like trying to capture nature while it's, for lack of a better term, not the most welcoming?
Yeah, it's invigorating. It's calming. It's everything all at once. You're more in the moment. You're really focused on what's in front of you, and I think what I like the best about it is you become very quiet, and all of a sudden birds and nature around you kind of start appearing, birds and such. You're standing there just concentrating, and all of a sudden, there's a bird watching you.
So you're noticing things you wouldn't notice otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And the one thing with being a plein air painter also is you have to be quicker. You have to be more decisive in what you're doing because shadows are changing. Mm-hmm. And in order to really get that effect of the light, you don't want to be painting something in the morning and painting something late in the afternoon because the sun shadows would change, and you want to give that effect of that time of day as possible.
Right. So you talked about how it can be a bit of a struggle sometimes, but what would you say is your greatest hurdle when trying to make your art?
Well, it's finding the time. I do have a lot of time to paint, and sometimes I sit down and all of a sudden I'm, hours later, I'm, wondering where did the day go? I have to go, get my regular chores done, but it's something that you grow with when you paint. The more you paint, the faster it comes to you, the more decisive. You have more of a history with the paint, knowing how to, mix it and getting the results that you want.
You talked about mixing paint. Are you mixing for colors, or are you mixing for why are you mixing paint? I'm sorry, I don't know much about this, so I'm wildly curious.
I generally stick with a limited palette, so I don't try and buy every color under the sun, but I'd rather mix those colors. Let's say just having an ultramarine blue and a red to make your purple. I mix the colors more on the palette rather than on the canvas, so I have the color ready to apply. I do like a thicker paint, so a lot of my paintings you'll find have a lot more texture to them. You'll see the brush strokes, you'll see the lines and sort of the element of drawing into the paint and creating some movement. So mine don't really look too much like photographs, but as you say, the farther you're away, they look maybe more spot on like a photograph, but as you come closer, all you're going to see are brush strokes and textures and movement with the paint.
Right, yeah, I'll admit, when I say they look like photographs, it's coming from first-person experience. When I went to see your art, I think it was on reception, on the night of the reception, it was really interesting to see them far away because I mistook them for photographs at first. And then walking up to them, I start seeing the textures in them, and I'm thinking, well, that doesn't really happen in photos. You can't have jutting
it's sort
out.
of like the blobs of paint all come together, and your eye blends it, and you recognize the shapes and things that are familiar to you, whether it be clouds or the bluffs or grasses, and the shadows help make it pop.
Right, and that's really interesting because when you're talking about the texture of your brushstrokes, I going in there not knowing anything about your work or knowing anything about like what plein air was, and very obviously now not knowing much about it, I see the texture on the river and I see the textures on the rock, and I'm thinking that is completely intentional, and it almost made it gave it depth, or like it was like I could reach in and touch this scene that is being depicted here. Like the texture really adds to the idea of making it look more real, if that makes sense.
Yes. And I appreciate that you're seeing that, and it's moving you to, want to touch and want to experience it in another level, because these paintings I do are different places along the river. They're places that excite me, and I want to interpret that to make the viewer want to embrace it and enjoy the elements that are out there.
Well, let's dive in a little more into your into the exhibit itself. It's the title of the exhibit is "You Are Here," and along your different artworks, there's little maps where you pinpoint exactly where you painted those different events.
Yes.
And it's interesting because you're taking up both space and time, and I'll admit, as someone who's a bit of an amateur photographer, seeing your artwork, it's just really interesting to see. It's almost like what a photographer is trying to do, but done through paint, and it's very surreal to witness.
Yeah, and I think there are artists who are photographers, and where we're both looking for that moment. I like the idea of putting in maps because people often don't know where that is.
Right.
And besides journeying them with my painting, they can go there now. And they go, they can be appreciative of the locations we have around here. This upper Mississippi Valley is, it's just beautiful. It changes in the seasons.
Right. Right, and it's interesting because you take these beautiful landscapes that we have here in the Midwest, and when you put them on a map, they kind of it takes them out of being these ethereal places that are far off to just being, we know where and when this was, and it's some place that we can actually go to and witness for ourselves.
Absolutely. And I keep discovering new places as I go out to hike and venture out, and I hope that people share those places with me, because it's unlimited, the beauty that we have around here.
Yeah, your art is pretty much a physical representation of Stop and Smell the Roses.
Yeah, I would say so. That sounds nice.
Yeah, because you're talking about how you notice things that you wouldn't notice, and I like most people probably wouldn't notice if they're on the move and they're not really paying attention to what's around them. But you even said one of the pieces that really stood out to you was one of Sugarloaf. People here in Winona, they see that every single day, but within your piece of art, it really encapsulates the beauty behind that rock formation.
Yes, and it's amazing that how many places you can view Sugarloaf from.
Right.
From the Wisconsin side, from the Trempealeau Refuge, to coming up 661 to just a variety of places. It's like always there. It's a enigma.
Right. I do want to go a little bit more into your experiences with plein air paint. You did go into a bit of your history with it, and why you enjoy it. So this will just be more for the sake of interest. What would you say is the most unexpected experience you've had while doing plein air?
It's meeting people along the way. I'm really surprised how it engages people as they pass by, and I always welcome them to stop and talk. I can paint while I talk, which is wonderful. And people go, they're just amazed, like, oh, yeah, I see that. Or if they're catching me in the very beginning of a painting, maybe they're kind of wondering, what am I going to do? But, I invite them to come back later and go to, let's say, my blog site and see the finished piece, because I do post everything that I do, painting in the studio or plein air.
Mm-hmm. All right. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because I remember one of the artworks within the Blue Heron Coffee House. I've been calling it cafe this whole time, haven't I? The Blue Heron Coffee House is of a few individuals putting together a boat. Or not putting together a boat, but getting ready to sail off, if I'm remembering that correctly. Or there's one of a boat.
Yes, I like doing anything that's related to the water. I have one that is 3 sailboats out on Lake Onalaska. Now, that was done from a photo because obviously they're constantly moving around. Right. done a number others of fishermen. I love capturing people in the landscape, as well as buildings or objects such as boats.
All right, that was actually the answer to my next question. How did you capture something that's constantly moving? So you do them from photographs as well.
Yes, I do. Primarily, I would say 85% is probably done through photographs. I think because that, when I'm out and about, there's just so much information coming at me, and I want to kind of capture it all. The plein air is nice because it kind of slows me down, and I find those special spots to plein air paint and to come back to. So a lot of times I'm just out on a discovery walk, and sometimes I'm out there to do a painting.
Do you ever do a painting of the same location at different times?
I have. I do find I do like the morning the best. I think some of the light is the most interesting. Mm-hmm. I've tried to do sunsets in same locations, but it's very hard. It goes down rather fast, and I find that if I'm looking too much at the sun, I can't see the painting anymore.
Right. So this is quite the interesting. This is a very interesting form of art you have here. Now, what would you say to people who are interested in doing this themselves? Because I will say, I see your art. It's gorgeous. I know a lot of people would agree. In the challenge and the commitment and the training is probably not the right word, but the commitment and the time it takes to really learn how to capture something in an instant through a I'm sorry, I'm trailing on my words. My point is...
Sure, no, that's fine.
You're capturing a moment in time that is a very short time in a painting.
Yeah,
it takes time.
I think it takes a lot of observation. I belong to Drawn Together, which is a drawing group, and whenever somebody could get out and, draw, I think that's a wonderful element to really have to master before you can paint. You have to be able to put it down on paper, and it's sort of an eye-hand coordination. So the more you do something, the better you'll get. And so if people are discouraged right away because they aren't getting the results that they want right away, it's not going to happen right away. This is something that you can commit to for a long time, and it just gets more fun and more interesting. Taking workshops, taking drawing classes, and just being around other artists, I think, is probably one of the best things. Going to art shows and receptions and seeing what other people are doing. It's okay to be inspired by other artists, and maybe try and emulate your favorite ones, and then you'll discover your own style as you go along.
Did you ever have a piece where you looked at it and you thought, well, this isn't what I was trying to translate?
Oh, yes. I just had one. I was going to enter into the Children's Museum, has a call for artists to exhibit, and they were running a contest, and our art group even went there to draw, and I had something in mind, and I thought it was really going to be great, and in the final end, I overworked it and said, nope, I'm not putting this in. This isn't who I am. So it's sitting there, and it's a canvas to be redetermined.
Well, that's interesting. So what happens to the pieces that you don't feel translate you as an artist?
Well, I get to set them aside. Oftentimes I still document them if they aren't really, really bad.
Right.
But, you can learn from things that don't work out as much as you can learn from things that do work out. Reflecting on past paintings, sometimes I might go back and go, well, that wasn't so bad. I was pretty critical on that, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And maybe I can rework it. Although I tend to just want to move forward and go on to the next painting, but it's good to reflect on what you're doing. I look back on my blog site, and I look at my early stuff, and I was always trying to explain why I'm doing things or where I'm at. And I don't want to miss out on learning from that, so I keep that out there.
So, out of every one of your, it's probably not the best word to use, but of every one of your successes, the paintings that portray what you are trying to portray, how many failures, quotation marks, would you say you have in that?
Well, I think some are part failures. Some certainly can be better. I'm always hoping my best painting is my last painting, that it's accumulation of time and efforts, and that it's challenging me to do something more. Right now I'm trying to do more birds for a show coming up at El Maro. And I've done some birds in the past, but they're definitely not going to be plein air because birds are flitting around and such. So,
right. Well, that'd be interesting to see. Just you could do plein air, just have a bunch of lines just dashing across the landscape.
Motion, yes. That's another way to look at it, definitely. So some of my past landscapes, I was thinking, well, maybe I can incorporate birds into them. It's always a challenge, and it's exciting to try new things. I added cold wax about a year ago to some of my paintings, and that doesn't allow me to be very precise, and that's just a medium that you put into the oil paint. You can use it with other acrylics and such, but it makes it more sticky, and I have less control over it, but I get different results.
That's interesting. So you put cold wax on your paintings. That's interesting to hear. I do want to dive in a little bit to this group you mentioned, Drawn Together.
Yes.
Yeah, can you dive into what that group is and what they do?
Okay. Well, I joined up with them about 5 years ago, but they've been coming together to draw for, I think it's probably 25 or 30 years. Primarily, it started off with art teachers in this community, and they would gather in the summertime and were taking a drawing class, and then they decided to meet on their own after that. So it's great fun because we go to different locations that maybe, I've never been, such as maybe the sailing club, or we might go to a junkyard, or we might go to an apple orchard. So every week that we meet on Wednesday mornings, we go and draw, and it doesn't have to be something fantastic. You draw, you do. We don't generally critique, or there's no competition. It's more just of the joy of drawing and getting out there and expressing ourselves, and plus the camaraderie, and the people most of them are active artists and showing in the area. So I get a lot of feedback and information about what's going on in the art community.
Interesting. Let me say you don't only do locations here in the Midwest when you plein air. You have I think if I remember, you've done stuff across the country, right?
Well, I've done from photographs across the country because I started about 5 years ago. That was just about a year before COVID, and I was just getting used to my oil painting. My goal was to travel and paint and have it take me places to like national parks and some of those really awesome places. But then with COVID, it was, I guess we're going to be sticking around here for a while. So I haven't done much on location other than in this area, but I think there is just an unlimited resource of things to paint here.
Well, now that we're kind of out of COVID, do you think you might reach out to some of the locations?
Well, I sure hope so. I think one of the things that I would love to do, since I'd love to reach out and enjoy these other plein air events. There's invitationals and competitions. I'm not quite there to figure that I can make a living off of the plein air events, but there are workshops that are often offered in the Southwest in the wintertime, which could be kind of nice, I'd say.
All right. Well, I think we'll kind of wrap up this interview. But before I do, I'd like to ask, where can people see your art? You mentioned your blog. Where can people reach out to that so they can see more of your work?
Oh, yes, awesome. Well, my blog site is seashoreartwork.blogspot.com. So that's CSHOREARTWORK. I have 50-some paintings up at Blue Heron Coffee House, and that's through March 3rd. And I have a couple paintings up at the Pump House right now to honor the 100th anniversary of the Upper Mississippi Wildlife Refuge. And then coming up in May and June, El Morro and the Trempealeau National Wildlife Refuge with some plein air painting with some other artists. So that'll be a lot of fun.
All right, so you got quite a few things going on. So that's the Blue Heron Coffee House until March 2nd, 2023. The
24.
Oh, it's to 24.
Oh, through the, I thought you said the year.
Yeah, so it's March 2nd, 2023 that the, man, it's February and I'm still stuck on last year. My goodness.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Oh, well, yeah, tomorrow's the, not tomorrow, but this week will be the first day of the Lunar New Year, February 10th, but I know that is not, even then I'm still wrong. So, okay, 2024, you're right. Excuse me for that. So, your paintings will be on display at the Blue Heron Coffee House until March 2nd, 2024. And you have this, you said at the Pump House. Where is that located?
Oh, the Pump House Regional Arts Center is in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So they are down on King Street, and we just had a reception there last Friday, as well as there's another wonderful artist, Jeannie Arntz, has her Wandering show up, which people shouldn't miss either.
All right, and that goes on until, can you give us a date for that?
I believe that is February 24th.
All right, February 24th, 2024. I got it right that time.
All right.
And then, of course, you mentioned the plein air painting event out at the Trempealeau Refuge in, you said June, yeah?
Yes, June 1st is the Artists Along the Trail. So there's, right now, I think 12 artists signed up, and we can take up to 15 for the complimentary show at El Morro. But artists will be out plein air painting during the morning of June 1st. And then the artists that are in that event will also be displaying at El Morro in their crush pad for the month of June, as well as doing some plein air painting on Sundays during their street market.
All right. Well, you got a lively set of events happening in the next couple of months.
I know. I have to get the painting.
All right. Well, we'll let you go
so you can do that.
I'll let you go so you can get back to painting. But thank you so much for joining us here on Artbeat, Colleen. Thank you so much. You have a good day, yeah? Bye-bye. Well, that was Colleen Shore, who we had here on the Artbeat. Thank you for joining us for this special episode. If you want to check out more of her work, check out her website at seashoreartwork.blogspot.com. And thanks for tuning in to Artbeat. We appreciate you all tuning in for this episode. I got the time way off here. Coming up next will be the, is it the prime time? Rock Pile. Coming up next will be the Rock Pile with Mariana Yanta here at 89.5 KQAL.
Artbeat is written and produced by KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University. Visit us on the web at kqal.org.